This was the original entrance to the hospital, and so when you were arriving at the hospital as a patient in the 1820s, this was where you would actually go into the building.
In 1826, the hospital opened its doors to its first patients. Originally called the Radcliffe Asylum, in 1843 it was renamed the Warneford Asylum in honour of its primary benefactor, the Reverend Samuel Warneford. The hospital was largely for the middle classes. Patients and their families had to pay for admittance. But some allowance was made for poorer patients who couldn't pay. When the Warneford first opened, patients were separated into 3 different classes of accommodation, depending on the amount they were able to pay. In 1845, 2 important pieces of government legislation were passed: the Lunacy Act and the County Asylums Act. These acts improved the regulation of asylums and obliged all counties in England to provide free asylum for lunatics. Subsequently, in 1846, the Oxford County Pauper Lunatic Asylum opened. It later became known as Littlemore Hospital.
Women who had developed some sort of mental illness, that was often ascribed to their gender. So they might be suffering from menstrual issues, they might be suffering from the menopause, or things to do with actual childbirth.
These treatments are for your own good.
Well, I feel that my own good would be served by allowing me to return home to my children.
That will not be possible until we can be satisfied that you pose no danger to yourself or to any member of your family.
I am no danger to my family.
Until we are satisfied that that is indeed the case, you will be required to remain in our care.
But how long might that be?
Impossible to say with certainty, but in my experience, it may be for a number of weeks, perhaps months.
Months? You think I will be in here for months?
Quite possibly.
No, I can't. It cannot be. I have a daughter who is only just taking her first steps, and a babe not yet a month old. They will be in great need of me and will not understand why I am not with them. Besides, my husband would never countenance my absence for so long.
I'm afraid, Mrs. Osborne, it is your husband who has entrusted us with the authority to keep you here for as long as is deemed necessary.
This is a case from the 1840s. It's about a woman called Elizabeth Blay, and she was brought in by her husband because she was very, very despondent and she had tried to take her own life. And so these are her admission details, and they cross-reference with her medical notes, which are all written in this squirrely doctor's handwriting here. And the doctors have obviously stuck into the medical records this little slip from the local newspaper that talks about how she was found and how people had observed her looking despondent and looking as though she was about to jump into the Thames, which is indeed what she ended up doing. So this just tells us how she fared once she got to the Warneford and what the doctors found on their weekly visits to her. And she did actually make a recovery, and she was removed from the Warneford, and as far as we know, she was fine thereafter.
The second half of the 19th century saw major developments and the professionalisation of mental science into its own medical specialty, later coming to be known as psychiatry. The Lunacy Act of 1890 further enacted legislation around mental illness, following growing concern that people were being sent to asylums who did not need to be there. The Act stated that 2 medical certificates, as well as legal certification, were needed to commit someone, putting in place some of the apparatus for modern-day approaches to sectioning.
There were no effective treatments at the time. So what was effectively being offered was a supportive and safe environment. There were specific activities. There's a lot of emphasis on working in the gardens, on exercise and relaxation. But all of these activities took place within a framework of what was called moral treatment or moral therapy.
Towards the end of the 19th century, or certainly from 1850 onwards, chemicals were introduced to try and keep people sedated. Things like chloral hydrate or laudanum were administered, particularly at night, to try and keep patients quiet.
Your evening medication, Matilda. I'm sorry? Lady Matilda. No? Tsarina. Right, so it's Tsarina Matilda today. Tsarina Matilda, it's time to take your evening medication.
Must I take this?
The doctor thinks it best.
It's bitter!
Now, Tsarina Matilda, you know you have to take it for your own good.
During the 19th and early 20th centuries, as part of the patient's routine, a fortnightly dance was held in the recreation room. These dances provided a rare opportunity for patients of both sexes to mingle, and also an important means of socialisation. In 1918, the Warneford governors decided to invest in additional land to provide patients with a larger area in which to roam. They bought what is now known as the Warneford Meadow. This not only gave patients new areas to walk through, but also protected the hospital from any building work on this land that might infringe patient privacy.
Green and living environment is important for mental health, and that was always part of the idea, not actually just within the Oxford Asylum and mental hospitals, but in mental hospitals in general.
Two different sorts of planters have created the tree walkway, which draws on the historical documents, the trees that were mentioned within those. The larger silver planters are actually done with pig arks, so historical data shows that there was a working farm on the Warneford site that patients were actively involved in as part of their recovery. So the silver ones, yeah, they're made with pig arks. We've joined two together, and each one of our wards has adopted one of those planters.
We're now in this wonderful orchard, which has been here since the hospital was first built. And the orchard gave opportunities for patients to work, to tend the apple trees and to harvest the apples in the autumn. And of course that was all part of the working farm that was here at the Warneford, which again gave lots of opportunities for patients to work and to be outside in nature.
In history there's a lot of experimental treatments that were going on all over the world. Was that kind of practiced here?
Yes, so those sorts of treatments, they were much more prevalent just before the Second World War. So around the 1930s, things like leucotomy were introduced, which was neurosurgery basically, but at a very basic level. And then there was insulin coma therapy, there was sleep therapy, keeping people asleep for long periods to try and help them, and then there was electroconvulsive therapy. And that's the only one that's still in use today, not nearly as much as it had been, but it, for some people it is still helpful. Most of those more experimental treatments, they were phased out by the 50s.
Okay, so quite a short period of time of them being used.
Yeah.
In 1948, the Warneford became part of the newly established National Health Service.
That's when there was this pharmacological, it's called a pharmacological revolution, but it's basically the introduction of drugs to help with things like psychosis and depression.
while the 1959 Mental Health Act instituted a path towards deinstitutionalisation.
It's really interesting because in 1959 there's a new Mental Health Act, and it's replacing kind of mental deficiency acts and mental treatment acts of the 1930s with this kind of integrated act that is looking to bring a kind of parity of esteem between mental and physical health care.
I was looking at this particular study in 1950s Oxford. Seymour Spencer conducted this study together with some colleagues of student mental health amongst Oxford undergraduates. And they got a lot of the free local colleges involved as well, who would send their students, so you can see these informal networks between medical professionals. So they would presumably have lunch together, and Spencer would say, like, I'm doing this study, could I use your undergraduates for it? And free colleges agreed. But he then, a few years later, published part of that study without consulting his colleagues under a very different title, Homosexuality Among Oxford Undergraduates. And that was something, homosexuality and mental health seemed to be unconnected perhaps to us today, but for these researchers at the time were very deeply connected.
You were more interested in Stephen Cooper?
What?
I guessed ages ago.
Guess what?
You know what?
It's
okay.
But it's not okay, is
Well, it's how it is, and that's that. How long will you have to stay in here?
Don't know.
What about your course and your exams?
I don't know!
In 1969, the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Oxford opened at the Warneford, consolidating Oxford's place as a leader in academic research on mental illness.
When I started, there were very few community teams at all, and over the last 30 years, that's been the real expansion. It's meant that the focus on the mental hospital itself, or the inpatients unit, has become less.
As deinstitutionalisation progressed, there was an increasing need for organisations to provide community-based support. In 1977, for example, Restore was founded in East Oxford.
So I was referred by Restore to a mental health recovery group called the Beehive. I attended there for 2 years. Very creative, helped me with the structure of my day, and it was only sort of every Tuesday for 2 years. Fantastic place. I mean, it massively brought me out of my shell and helped me to start feeling a bit better about myself and start realising that, you know, I might have this physical and mental health that I have, but I know that there's me somewhere in there.
So Sadie, this I think is the Highfield as it used to be. I'm not sure how many years ago it was, but what can you tell me about the differences between how it looked then and now?
Well, there's 2 beds, which I think is not how it's run at the moment. I think they're all single rooms, but okay. I think mainly just like, it looks more casual, more like maybe like a university halls room than it looks like a hospital here. I think the only hostily thing about it is kind of like the hostel beds.
So with that more sort of homely feel, how do you feel about that? Would you have liked your room to have been a bit more homely?
They used to always say to us that they don't want it to be too homely because this is not home. And I think that was always quite a relevant factor.
Increasingly, the old fabric of a building that was set up in the sort of Victorian age is inadequate, both for current clinical care and also for current research. So we desperately need to do something to replace that. The really important bit that we need to replace is the clinical environment. So we're looking to rebuild the hospital on the same site, consistent with the same principles that we've already been talking about. So making sure it's a beautiful, inspiring, and a place that people can recover in. And at the same time, building research buildings alongside that so that our research can be in the same place that the patient is. That's a real strength of Oxford.
Usha, what have you found? Because that looks very interesting to me.
It is interesting. It's a poem by someone called John Thornton Burt, who we know was an advertising agent, and he wrote this very long and interesting and lavishly praising poem about the Warneford.
My heart relieved of half its heavy load, I sing of Warneford, my serene abode, the home of happiness and peace and rest. Sure to be here is to be truly blessed. Within these solitudes no cares intrude, nor sharp anxieties, nor insults rude. Here I may promenade, or read, or smoke, compose a verse, or perpetrate a joke. And when my voice I raise, my voice, O Lord, to Thee, a sweet-toned instrument provides the key. Behold in Warneford all I can desire, luxurious couches and a blazing fire.